Welcome to the Growth with AI podcast. I'm Peter Martinson, and today's episode is all about how AI is transforming the way small businesses market, grow, and build relationships online. Our guest is Aaron Gobidas, founder of Go Be Rewarded, a full-service marketing agency helping San Diego businesses stand out through smart strategy, creative execution, and measurable results. Aaron's built a reputation for blending authentic brand storytelling with cutting-edge digital tools. And now he's leading the charge in using AI to make marketing faster, more personal, and more effective. We'll dive into how AI is reshaping local marketing, where human creativity still matters most, and what small business owners should be doing right now to stay ahead of the curve. Aaron, it's great to have you here.
Hey, great. Thank you for having me.
So tell me your story. How did you get started doing what you're doing now?
So I was actually it was about 10 years ago. I was getting out of the Marine Corps at the time. I was over at First Force Recon as a 0321 reconnaissance man, over at Camp Pendleton. And I really wanted to stay in Southern California. I'm originally from Ohio. And the reason I joined the Marine Corps was to get out of Cleveland, Ohio. So around that 2010, 2011 time period, it's just, I'm pretty sure if I went back there, nothing really changed. So, I was going to say it was real bad back then, but it's probably still real bad now. So yeah, I really wanted to stay out here and start a family. So, I ended up starting this marketing agency out of my apartment with my wife, Madeline. And, we've grown to, where we have this nice office here now. We have about 20 full-time employees working here.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of growth since you said 2012?
15. I came
2015.
here around 2015 from Japan, where I was first stationed. And then, yeah, when I came out here in 2014, I had about a year left on my contract. And yeah, I just really wanted to stay.
So I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily think of like the Marine Corps and marketing as being synonymous. Did you have a background in marketing before that, or am I just wrong in how I see that?
No, before the Marines, I did have a bit of a business background. I grew up in a small business. My dad has a custom drapery company that, basically we kind of lived like Bob's Burgers style where, we lived up here and the factory was down here sort of thing. So, I've been, helping my dad with his business, ever since I was essentially old enough to set up scaffolding, uh, and, spend my weekends doing that. Um, and before I was in the Marines, I did have a few, sales jobs and stuff like that. So, I'm pretty familiar with business and sales overall. And, that's typically the advice I give people when they're starting a business is you can have whatever idea you want, but if you haven't been successful at a few crappy sales jobs, then yeah, and then you can't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the cure for cancer if you're not going to be able to sell it to anybody, then it's not going to get any adoption. So, and as far as the, Marine Corps is concerned, especially being in reconnaissance, it has absolutely nothing to do with marketing. I had a little bit of familiarity with cameras in that field. So I did have a little bit of camera experience. That's when we got like our idea of, I remember my wife was building the websites and I was basically selling the websites when we first started. And I remember the first website we sold was for, I believe it was this bar over in Oceanside. She was like, so what do I put on the website? And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, well, maybe I can go, I end up buying a camera and I'm like, well, maybe I can go take some pictures of the place because it's right down the street from where we live. And then you can put those pictures on the website. Uh, and that's where it came to the point where basically all of our websites for the last 10 years have included photo and video work along with the website because it actually makes the job easier at the end of the day because we don't have like 15 revision rounds on a project or something like that. Yeah, we don't have like 15 revision rounds on a project or anything because people usually can't complain about them and their place. They can't say, well, that doesn't look good. And it's like, well, that was your plumbing job that you did. You can't complain. So yeah, so we ended up keeping that, going. But the last 10 years, and as far as like I said, the Marine Corps had really nothing to do with it, other than it really helped me understand when it comes to team building and the way people want to be treated. And that was really when I did start the company. I kind of had that in mind of like, I really want to make a place that people want to work in, and they're happy to work in. And as well as just making sure that you can, like when you have a recon team that has done a couple of deployments together, and those guys have been working with each other for a long time. There's literally no stopping them. If you have all the right guys in the right places, they're going to outperform every team every time. And so that was that kind of is what I stuck with when I started hiring people, was building the right team, putting the right people in the right place, doing something that they also want to be doing. Marine Corps made me find out that managing people and getting them to do stuff that they don't want to do is really hard. But getting people to do what they want to do is actually really easy, and they really enjoy doing it. So yeah, we stuck with two major tenants in the company ever since we started. One is that we only work locally. That's so we can send our photo and video crew that we have in house to clients' locations to get original photo and video and written content for everything that we do. And then secondly, all my work is done in house. I don't subcontract any of my work. Typically, a client is coming to me because they've already given some guy $5,000 on Fiverr and they didn't deliver. They launched the project, but when it comes to maintenance, they're basically being ghosted on the whole thing. And so yeah, at no point in time is the work that's being done here at Gobi is that going to be done by anyone who's other than a full-time W-2 employee working here in
That's
Vista.
awesome. That's a great tenant. So you've built a digital marketing agency focused on small business in San Diego. So how are you currently integrating generative AI? I'm gonna get that word. I really am. How are you integrating AI into your client workflows, and what kind of tangible impacts have you observed?
So, it's interesting because a lot of small businesses, I'll preface this question too. I get asked this question all the time. They're like, "Oh, aren't you afraid that AI is going to be just replacing everything that you do here?" And I'm like, well, the nice thing is, first off, when it comes to AI, I mean, there are going to be certain limitations. Granted, some of these limitations are getting smoothed out, or they are getting better. But really, at the end of the day, when you look at um, AI, I mean, it does two things really well right now. And those two things are things that we are embracing here at our agency, very well. But there's also things that doesn't do very well. And I don't think we'll ever be doing that with AI here. One of them being is AI is a really great, I just call it a word calculator.
Mhm.
It's basically, instead of having to sit there and write a 5 paragraph essay or a blog about tankless hot water heater installation or something like that, I can do that really well. It can do that really well, maybe even better. Unfortunately, we did have a full-time writer on staff. Therefore, we actually have a full-time writer on staff again, but she is using AI a lot more. But I remember when AI first started coming out, it was like, well, we have these blog articles that our full-time writer wrote, and we have these blog articles that ChatGPT wrote. People really couldn't tell the difference. Um, so it does work really well as, like I said, it's a word calculator. At the end of the day, you're still going to have to look over it, just like your teacher. If you're using your calculator, you still had to show your work. You still
Mhm.
had to make sure everything was correct. You weren't just gonna, the teacher wasn't gonna let you just put the answer is 25 down on your sheet. Just like our clients aren't going to let us just put whatever AI slop is on their website or on their blogs or on their, in their marketing, titles or anything like that. So you're still going to have to look it over. You're still going to have to make it make sense. But that whole idea of like the rough draft, and then, doing a final draft, it kind of takes that rough draft phase out of the picture. So you can do a whole lot more. That's one reason why when AI did come out, we started including in our basic web package, we included a monthly blog along with that, where traditionally that was an extra $100 a month if somebody did want a monthly blog with their websites. We were able to combine those packages together and still give our clients that good same value for that price. And so yeah, it is a really good word calculator. And on the word calculator thing, I'll also put research tool, especially when we do get clients that are very obscure. I mean, to give you an example, we have a client that does scale calibration for like labs, truck scales, stuff like that. You're not going to go to your local library and start, get a whole book on it and research it so you can build that website and make that marketing campaign. But if we're looking at, custom scale calibration, for instance, or precision honeycomb manufacturing, or especially when we get some of these clients that aren't just like plumbers or lawyers or HVAC companies or something like that, and we need to do research on this and make sure we can use the correct terminology and everything like that. AI is perfect for that, because now we're not having to scour some weird Reddit forum or blog or something like that. It's kind of giving us a lot of information that we need as marketers at our fingertips very quickly. And I would say the other thing that it's also really good at is it's really good at making stock content.
Hmm.
If you're looking for images, video, I don't see any reason why you would want to have Adobe stock, so to speak, right now. If you need a stock photo of a plumber, putting a pipe on a thing or whatever, I would just use AI for it. But the nice thing is that we don't use any stock content here. So that's why I'm afraid from the content standpoint, I don't think AI is ever going to replace what we do here, because we've never utilized stock content. But if I was utilizing stock content, I'd probably be really afraid of AI taking my whole staff's jobs. But yeah, it makes stock content really well. Stock written content and stock photo and video content. It does a really good job of, and I think that's what one thing that's what people really need to be using it for. Whereas some of the things like, I mean, I guess like note taking has been all right. It's kind of gone on and off with the note taking apps that have been coming out. Some are good, some are bad. Sometimes the notes are good, but also at the same time too, I've never been a big note taker myself. If you look at even my written notes on stuff, I'll have like 5 things that I'll put down from a whole meeting, and then I'll have to recall it from memory. But even in school and stuff, I was never a good note taker. So even when I do have AI generate a whole bunch of notes, I'm like, well, I already knew that. But it's just one of those things where I've never been someone who's like, oh, I was reviewing my notes. So it's kind of nice to have, but I could imagine someone who's like a really big note taker, that would be probably something good for them. But yeah, AI has its limitations, and we're also in the I think the nice part about AI too is we're in the yeah, I don't know. Have you heard the term inshitification?
I have, yes.
Okay. We're in the de-shitification phase of AI right now. We're Uber Eats in 2015. We're Uber in 2000, in the early 2010s. We're Netflix in like 2009 right now. Um, um, AI. They're doing everything they can to make it better. It's free for the most part. I mean, you can pay for it, but for the most part, it's free. It doesn't have, it's not like while I'm waiting for a script to load, like it's showing me an ad for like Progressive Auto Insurance or something like that. It's not stealing my data right now. We're in that like first stage of the inshitification of something. So, that's also, so I would say take advantage of it while we're in that nice stage. Like I said, it's like watching Netflix in like 2012. Like it's got every show, it's no ads, and it's only $5. You get rid of your cable, just like, yeah. So yeah, right now we're in that phase right now. Take advantage of it, because I bet you somehow 5, 10 years from now, we're going to be in the inshitification stage three of where all the streaming apps, Uber Eats, Airbnb, and all those things that were like just revolutionary, 10 years earlier because they were trying to gain users. They were trying to figure out what they do. And like I said, they were cheap, they were easy, they were fun. Yeah, we're in the cheap, easy, fun phase of AI. So yeah, enjoy it.
So I hope you're wrong, but considering like how many ads I have to watch on Amazon Prime now, you're probably right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and yeah, I hope I'm wrong too. Somehow, I hope AI is somehow is immune from inshitification. But like I said, back in 2011, when you were watching Netflix, you're like, why would they want to screw this up? This is great, you know, you know, or like you were staying in Airbnbs and like, yeah, everyone was like, oh, why would I ever want to stay in a hotel? This Airbnb thing's great. Now you can have an Airbnb, for I would much rather stay in a hotel now. It's gone like full circle. And so yeah, I'm hoping inshitification of AI doesn't happen, but I don't know. The internet has already been kind of inshitified. Social media got inshitified basically, and that was like I would say the closest thing to the AI revolution that we have that's happened in our lifetime. I guess the internet in general, but I'm 37 years old, so I could say that happened within my lifetime. I remember getting the internet for the first time, but when we're talking about like, the early days of the internet, I don't even think I was alive or I
Yeah.
was alive, but
Yeah. I was there. Yeah. So what are the biggest risks right now to not using AI with your clients? I mean,
I would say, when it comes to, um, I would say because we kind of have that like non-negotiable of, I'm not going to hire overseas contractor to do any part of what we do. It has to be done by, someone here, basically. It is gonna be one of those things where, yeah, I do fully understand that even those overseas contractors are going to be using AI and they're only charging $4 an hour to do so. So when it comes to things like I said, using it for what it's good for, using it as a word calculator is great. Using it to help make some prompts or do some research is awesome. I think that if you're not using it for those things, you're going to be really left behind. And I know that we have some, like I said, maybe some archaic rules here, but also at the end of the day, too, I also know that if you're utilizing it, if you're not utilizing AI, you're going to have some problems because you're going to be taking way too much time to do something that should be pretty easy. Just like it's kind of like when you're, I don't know, when your math teacher said like, well, but you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time. It's just like, well, Mr. Slav, I have something to tell you about 2025. You do have a calculator in your pocket all the time. Um, but I think it's going to be very similar to AI. I'd also say too, I would absolutely hate to be like an 11th grade literature teacher right now. Wouldn't you hate that? You're just like, oh, hey kids, write me a book report on Ketzer and the Rye. And then, it's just like 5 seconds later, like he just turns it in. He's like, here you go. And he's like, wait, like, what? You can't do those.
so
You can't just
I've heard some interesting workarounds for that where the teacher actually tells the students to use AI, but then the student has to critique the results that they get from the AI. So I've heard that that's like a workaround for the fact that you know that they're going to do it. But yeah, but you're right. Um, that's
But again,
actually
even as a teacher, yeah, you're gonna probably have to embrace it at the end of the day because that's like I said, it's just like the calculator. Like, yes, you can do stuff on paper, and should kids learn how to do stuff on paper? But how often does it come up? In your average everyday life, how often are you doing long division on a piece of paper?
yeah.
Pretty darn rare. So you're gonna want to make sure that you are embracing it in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think education is going to be changing a lot because of AI. Business though, it is one of those things where business and also the unfortunate part is a person's everyday life has not necessarily changed because of AI just yet. Like, yeah, there's been some layoffs at some big companies and stuff like that. But I think the average person, has yet to, business has been mainly for AI use. Like, you're not necessarily, the average person isn't using AI to figure out what they're eating for dinner tonight. The average person isn't going to start using it for a few years, but I think especially once the average person starts using it, and so your clients start understanding AI a little bit more, and if you're not using AI, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be something where you're just going to be looked at as kind of archaic.
Yeah. So have you had issues with any of the AI that you've started using? Have you had problems with it, or things didn't work quite right, or you were like, man, that just was not the experience I was looking for?
I mean, it sucks because everything has an AI on it now.
Right.
And but that's the thing is I think as long as you know what AI is good for and what it's useful for and what it's not useful for, you're not going to run into those problems of like, oh, I thought the AI was just gonna do this for me and it just did like a crappy job of it. You know, um, I think a really good example of when you're talking about how useful is AI going to be for you. And this is something that happened. I would probably say, what was that? 6 or 7 years ago when the Amazon Alexas, the Google Homes, and all those things started, like they pushed those things up. Like you got it for free. If there was a raffle going on at your church, they were giving that was like literally the Christmas present of like 2018, 2019 was like everyone got one of these things. And it was supposed to revolutionize how you do everything. But you kind of figured out over time like what it's good for and what it's not good for. Like it's really good for like when I need to set a timer. I absolutely love it. It's really good for if I just want some music playing because I don't have to pop in a CD or like hook my phone up to a speaker or anything like that. Like I absolutely love it. If I need to figure out what the weather is for today, all that stuff, it's absolutely great for it. And I really love it too because even with my kids, like having Alexa around, if they need like help spelling something, they'll just be like, Alexa, how do I spell granite? And it's like that like literally that is what it's amazing for. But like it was supposed to be like, oh, all your grocery shopping. You're supposed to do your grocery shopping through your Alexa. No one uses it for that. Are you
Nope.
crazy? You're supposed to do it was an Amazon thing. Like for Amazon, it was supposed to be so you buy products through this thing just through voice. That's what Amazon really pushed it for. But people realized that they would much rather just go on their phone, look and buy the thing that they wanted as opposed to be like, Alexa, buy me some AA batteries and have them sent here. I remember I tried that one time and like it's still the experience, people aren't going to adopt it that way. So I think AI is still in that kind of adoption phase of figure out what it's good for, figure out what it's not good for. And the times you're disappointed with AI are the times where you figure out what it's not good for. Just like, I mean, you were probably around for it when the microwave oven was first a big deal and they started becoming more of a consumer good. It wasn't a commercial good anymore. Like there was but I went to culinary school at some point in this whole thing. I didn't mention anything, but like I remember seeing in the culinary school there was a microwave cookbook from the 80s when microwaves for they were talking about cooking pot roast in this thing, making beef Wellington in a microwave. Like it was like you don't even need an oven anymore. You got a microwave, dude. And so and I feel like we're kind of in that phase of AI too, kind of like the microwave was in the 80s, where it's like, everyone's like, you're not gonna need a website or anything. We're not gonna need to have people anymore. We got AI. And it's just like, well, no, no, hold on. Like we figured out it's really good for like heating up frozen food. Like heating up a Stouffer's mac and cheese. That microwave is great. Heating up your leftovers from last night that you cooked in a real oven. The microwave is excellent at doing that. But you are not, making you are not making scalloped potatoes in the microwave. It's just something you're not doing. Like, I mean, I would say maybe at most, yeah. And we found out, oh, it's also really good for popcorn. Like if you want
Yeah.
that bag popcorn, it's great for that. People stop making popcorn every other way because there's like microwave popcorn. That's the way to go. And so I think with AI, we are going to figure out pretty soon what it's good for, what people are going to use it for in their everyday life. They're going to adopt it. And then, like I said, it's going to be like a microwave or like an Alexa or any one of these other kind of services or products that you have in your everyday life now that you don't even think twice about. But like I said, it's not its intended purpose of revolutionizing everything may or may not happen. It may revolutionize certain tasks, certain things that you do on a day-to-day basis. But if not, I don't. I'm not afraid of Skynet taking over, and I'm going to have to be fighting some Terminator or something like that. It's just not. And it's just so I don't think it's going to happen.
That's a great way to end up, though, to finish up. So I would like to know, what do you want people who might hire you to know about you and your agency?
Well, a majority of our clients, as I mentioned, when they come in here, they most likely had a really bad experience from another marketing company. And that's mainly because, and I usually don't even fault, whether it be a local person or a contractor they hired off of Fiverr or something like that. Um, I'm not necessarily going to fault them either for the business owner. I just don't think that they have a proper system for actually working with a small business owner. Because at the end of the day, when you're working with like a medium or a large size business, they're already going to have photo and video work that they have from their marketing department ready to go. They have brand guidelines. They already have a marketing campaign in place, and you're looking to optimize it. So I feel like a lot of these people, they have a system that's great for working with these people who already have basically their digital shit together. But when you're talking about the average small business owner, they don't have anything together. They don't understand anything. They don't have their own photo. They don't their own video. They don't have any branding. They're literally starting from nothing, or even worse than nothing. And they don't have a process for actually walking them through everything, which is what I think that you actually do need a human element for. You do need to come into the office. I need to send my people out to your place. You need to have a relationship with your web designer, and everything like that. Because it's not just the initial project as well. It's also going to be the maintenance. You might find someone who does something really good, but if you go into a room full of WordPress developers or something like that, you're like, oh, who wants to build me a WordPress site? Everyone's like, oh, me. And it's like, who wants to maintain it? And then everybody puts their hands on their nose, because nobody wants to maintain a WordPress site. Granted, we haven't used WordPress for like 8 or 9 years. We use Duda, but it is one of those things where, I think that we have the proper process for working with the small business owner and also maintaining that relationship over time. I'm not necessarily looking for a client who's looking for the next new shiny thing. I'm more concerned about how is that client going to be performing a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, with me and my staff. So, if you are looking for that experience, I would just invite you to, come to our website, book an appointment, come in here, meet me, meet my team, check out our studio. I'll show you some of our work, and if it's good fit, then we can start working together.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for joining us on the podcast today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And, we'll see you somewhere else on the internet.
Sounds good. Thanks, Peter.